What's up, Chris?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm holed up in the back in my office doing Zoom calls and now this. So,
Okay.
pretty pumped.
Uh, when you say Zoom calls, you mean work stuff, right?
Yeah, everyone's doing everything on Zoom.
Wow, that's so crazy. You know what? I feel like Zoom must have got such a boost in the business in the last month. It must be crazy.
I know. I should have bought stock when I was going to, and I didn't.
Oh, are they a public company?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. I just wonder what the once things get back to normal, are people going to hate it?
I've kind of been thinking about that. I'm not exactly. I know when this whole thing happened, like a lot of the trainers were kind of tripping out about, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I saw that, some people were moving a little bit faster than others, and it seemed like everybody was kind of going towards Zoom. Now, I guess the question would be, did people get so used to working at home that they're going to stay home?
No, I don't think so.
Mm.
And they're not. I've done a couple with Jose, and I only do it because I think he's going stir crazy because I can train on my own.
Got
But they're not great. Like it's hard. It's broken up quite a bit, and I don't like shadowboxing for that long. So it's tough.
Right. And not everybody can be Jose Navarro and Shadowbox for 3 hours and
That's
feel
correct. That's correct. And I don't look like he does.
Yeah. I mean, Jose just on a whole different level.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't know he was doing Zoom until I saw Loma had put up some.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
I saw that too. I did one with my buddy Chris Kimball, who goes to the gym. You probably know him. We did one on Saturday, and it was a good workout, but I definitely prefer just being on my own without having to worry about the signal on the Zoom.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi.
I was actually gonna. I thought I did. Are you and Chris related to each other?
No, just friends.
Okay,
just
friends. Got it. Okay, because the more I go to Fortune, I'm like, oh wow, like these people all kind of know each other outside of the gym. That was kind of crazy. I'm
just a social butterfly. I talk to everybody,
I can see that. Man. So this podcast is mostly, just, it's based around boxing. So we'll kind of start there, and as we just kind of chop it up, we'll kind of see some different angles that might be interesting to
ask
go
me
off
anything.
Of. So I'm always kind of interested as to how people got into boxing.
Yep.
So if you kind of give me your origin story as to how this whole thing got started.
Well, for me, the origin story was, and I have a recording from I was 4 years old with my brother Robert, who was 10 years older. He's 14, and my mother, who has she's passed away, but she had the thickest New York accent, and we have this recording to this day. And I was arguing with my brother over who was going to be Muhammad Ali and who was going to be Leon Spinks, and this was in 1978.
Oh my goodness!
And so I that's how much my family loved boxing, and I think if you were in New York in those times and in that day and age,
those are during like the heydays of boxing.
Oh yeah, the late 70s, 80s were everything.
Would you say back then, like, boxing was basketball and the NFL back then?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I mean, it was on network TV on weekends, daytime.
Crazy. And it wasn't even pay-per-view back then.
No. No. But I remember just watching it on free TV every weekend,
That's so insane.
I fell in love with it early, and my brother was in the Marines, Robert, and he did Taekwondo, and we had this red Everlast bag in our basement hung up on a beam, and we had gloves and wraps, and I remember that's where I first started working out. That's the first thing I did when I was a little kid, and I didn't take it seriously. I didn't know what it really was, but I got into traditional sports then that took me away from boxing. I still followed fights, but it wasn't like my thing. My thing was basketball and baseball.
Right.
And I played a little bit of, street hockey and street football with tackle with no equipment, which was insane. But I had a best friend named Rob Scopino, who I met in Little League when I was 8. And to this day, he's my best friend. He's a retired New York cop. And he got into fighting in a big way. And he fought in Golden Gloves and So he fought at Yonkers PAL, which is a kind of famous East Coast gym. Sal Correnti was the coach. He was a retired cop. A lot of good fighters came out of there, and I would go down to that gym with Rob all the time and train with him and watch him train. And I took it. I got in there a couple times, and I wasn't very good. I just knew how to throw my arms around. But I watched fighters like Douglas Gray and my friend Rob, who actually went to the Golden Gloves and succeeded. And we'd have neighborhoods go into fights.
Wow.
And then of course it was the era of Mike Tyson. So that was everything. Mike Tyson's a god to all of us. When he knocked out Trevor Berbick when he was 18 or 19. That just made me a disciple for life.
Wow. So what was it about that fight that got you so pumped up?
I consider myself like a creature of the streets, and it was a lot of boxing back then was, these guys were meant to present very well. You had the guys like Hagler and Leonard who, presented really well, and Tyson didn't present well. Tyson presented scary. And as a street dude, we all want to be the toughest kid on the block.
Of course.
And so when you watch him come in and he has the Rambo sweatshirt on and gloves and he's just moving his neck back and forth, it was terrifying. And he was from Brooklyn. So it felt like we could be around him at any point in time,
So he seemed like it kind of felt like you could literally be walking around the streets in the neighborhood. And
I feel like I knew 100 Mike Tysons.
Wow.
We had tough kids where I grew up too, not like that, but everyone wanted to be Mike Tyson. You don't forget, Tyson was like a street fighter, and because he had a stutter, and he got picked on, and his way of combating that was fighting, and thank God he found some mentors who trained him in a sport which saved his life, obviously. But we all wanted to be Mike Tyson.
How rough was the neighborhood that you grew up in?
I grew up in South Yonkers. My family's from Fordham Road in the Bronx, so that neighborhood was really tough. 183rd and Morris Avenue, which is right near Fordham Road, near Yankee Stadium, and when I was born in 1974, there wasn't enough room in the apartment they lived in because I had 5 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So
that's a big family.
Yeah. And, we were a blue collar family. My dad had 2 jobs. He worked for the city for Mabstow, and he was a bus dispatcher during the day. And then he would, they had a deli at one point, and they'd work shifts. And then he sold encyclopedias at night at one point. This is all before my time. But when I was born in 74, they told my siblings we're moving upstate now to get more room. We're buying our first house. And it was in Yonkers, New York, which they all got excited about, not realizing that Yonkers was about 10 minutes north. And it was connected to the Bronx. It was very, very close. And my neighborhood was very mixed. It was Spanish, Black. We had some Jewish. We had a lot of Irish and Italian. I wouldn't say it was like dangerous, but I would say it was tough and blue collar. There were different pockets of housing projects and different streets around us that were rough. I lived on a little dead end off of this street called Hawthorne Avenue, which was very familial, and we all knew each other and protected each other. But I definitely had my fair share of scraps and threats in the neighborhood. It was not fun at times.
Right. So this is why you felt like, you knew 100 Mike Tyson, and you could actually be running into him. Okay. Cool.
And I typically ran with some tough guys. And we had neighborhood fights. Sometimes you fight people you knew really well who were your friends. My best friend's house right next door to us was shot up.
Oh my goodness.
When I was like 16 or 17, and we, to this day, we don't know who did it because we had a lot of enemies. So,
would you say you were a tough guy, or were you just the nice friend?
I'd like to think I'm pretty tough. I can handle myself. I was never the toughest, but I never backed down from a fight.
Of course. But was it like in terms of like your neighborhood credentials? Like, was it kind of like, oh, look at Chris, the tough guy, or was it more like, oh, look at Chris, the friend of the tough guys?
I think it was a mix of both. I was bullied when I was younger,
Okay.
There was a group home up the street from where I grew up, literally a half a block, called Leek and Watts.
Okay.
And it was mostly black. And they were all kids from the city that were put into group homes because of behavioral issues and mental health issues.
Okay.
And they'd be roaming around our neighborhood quite a bit on their free time. And they were tough. These were tough kids. And I got picked on a lot by them.
Wow.
And so I learned to stand up for myself pretty early. And
Mm-hmm.
I then, sadly, I think I bullied people as a result of that, in high
Oh.
school and stuff like that. Not in a vicious way, but I just learned bad traits from that.
Yeah,
And
I could see that.
yeah, and I'm not proud of that, but it helped me realize what was right and wrong. And then in high school, I had quite a bit of, I had a lot of street fights in school. I always wanted to be someone who could handle himself. I remember my father telling me when I was young, if someone hits you, hit them back harder.
Of
And
course, of
and
course.
and that was instilled in me. But I look back now, it's all silly because I've taken, I'm more serious about boxing than I've ever been in my life. And it's a community now, and I meet so many great people. But back then, boxing for us was like, I want to be tough.
Right.
I want to knock people the fuck out. Like that was what we wanted to do.
There was an intention of violence behind knowing how to box. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember, slap boxing with my friend Rob, who's, again, my best friend. He would tell me all the time, you're nasty. You got great hands. Like, you're fast. Because I was super athletic. I was about 70 pounds lighter than I am now.
Okay.
And I was very athletic. I was, captain of my baseball team in high school and my basketball team in high school. I took it very serious, but I wish I would have boxed the way I do now back then. It would have been awesome.
And you were boxing orthodox, correct?
I was boxing orthodox, yeah.
Okay, cool. Got it. So from that point on, your friends winning gold gloves and whatnot,
yep.
Up until, training with Jose, like what happened in the middle of all that?
What happened in the middle? I mean, I'll be honest. I was a maniac for fighting in my teens and early 20s. I mean, I would follow fighters around the country. Like I followed Buddy McGirt and Pernell Whitaker down to Norfolk to watch that fight. I watched the other fight in the Garden with all my friends. I would go to fights all over the place, regional fights, local fights. And then, you go to college, and then I moved to LA, and I still followed it in the media, but I didn't go to a lot of fights for a very long time.
Okay. Where'd you go to school in LA?
I went to St. John's University in Queens, and then I moved to LA right after college. I drove a U-Haul out with my one of my best friends. And I lost touch of it because I got caught up in partying, and I got caught up in selfish behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the industry that I'm in, which is entertainment, Hollywood stuff. You get caught up and you're running around, you're busy, and you have a job, and you're going out at night trying to make friends. And,
right.
I lost passion for almost all sports. I followed it all in the media again, but I didn't, it wasn't like something I was crazy about for at least a decade or so. And then to this day, my client and dear friend is Frank Grillo, and he is a boxing maniac, all martial arts, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, but he boxes every day.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And I started managing him about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we've been friends for much longer than that, almost 20, I think. And
wow.
He just inspired me. Like I was like, why don't I take it this serious? Mm-hmm. And so he was like, you should meet Jose Navarro, my trainer. Come on in. He's an Olympian. And if you ask Jose, he'll tell you I was nervous the first few times I went in. I canceled on him a couple of times. I was nervous because I didn't really know how to fight. I trained when I was a kid, but I only, like, again, there was so many kids in that gym. You didn't really learn how to really box.
I thought you told. Didn't you have a little bit of an amateur career though?
No, not really. Not really.
Okay.
I had a few scraps in like, in Yonkers PAL, whatever that.
Okay, got it.
But it was like it wasn't a real thing. I never took it very seriously.
So it was like some in gym type of stuff.
No. It was very casual, and okay. I lived through my best friend Rob, who took it very seriously, and he'd get in there, and we'd fuck around and hit each other.
Got it.
but I was too wrapped up in other sports to care.
Okay, got it.
Like basketball and baseball, I took very seriously.
Okay.
So I was, in basketball, I was like, really good for my school, which was like probably a D3 city school,
Mm-hmm.
but that was still very competitive. And then I'd play in the basketball courts all over the Bronx and Yonkers.
Mm-hmm.
So to get back to Jose Navarro, I started training with him, and he was the most gentle, nice human being I've ever met.
I know, it's crazy. Like you would never think this guy was a world champion. You know what I mean? Like just from the outside looking in and knowing nothing about him, like that's not anywhere near what I would have thought.
No, same thing. I went in thinking this guy's going to be a badass, traditional Mexican style fighter. Meanwhile, he's like a Pernell Whitaker type, actually. And he's a beautiful soul. And I got addicted again. And that was probably, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. And since then, I've just become immersed in it. And I started going to fights again. And I go to tons of fights now. I go to Vegas. I go to Omaha to see Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Yeah. I mean, Terrence Crawford's my favorite fighter. I'd go anywhere to watch him fight.
T-Bud.
And that's where I'm at now.
Okay. So, one of the questions that I get a lot from people is like, so if you're not a fighter, what's the point of boxing?
Oh, right? Yeah, so, that's a great question. That's a great question.
So what I wanted to ask you is, in this stage of your life, you're a family man, you have a thriving career. Like, there's so many other things that you could be doing to be in shape or stay active. It could be running, CrossFit.
Yep.
I mean, you take your pick.
Yep.
Why boxing, and what does that do for you as a non-fighter?
As a non-fighter, I'll give you a quick story to give you even more relevance to the sport. I went through a horrible depression about 2 years ago. I had suffered from it about a decade prior, and I got through it with the help of medication and therapy. It was short though; it was like probably 3 or 4 months. And then this one was 2 years ago, and I was engaged to be married, and I had bought a home with my then fiance, and I suffered a depression out of nowhere. It was awful. I mean, I had to go to the hospital. I had to see tons of doctors, and and I had anxiety for the first time, and I didn't know what was happening to my body. And it's a battle that I still deal with now. But
and is this 2 years ago or
this
10
is
years
2
ago?
years ago.
Got it. Okay.
Excuse me. And then I realized that I have to get into rhythms that were previous to the depression. And the one thing besides acupuncture, which I started back then, and acupuncture has been great for me, but the one thing that I kept coming back to was boxing and training in the mornings and going and getting it out of the way and starting your day with endorphins and activity. But here's why I think boxing is better than all of the rest of those things you mentioned between, CrossFit and running and weightlifting. There's a unique community, and as you know, we're in the same gym quite a bit. You want to challenge yourself a little bit differently. You want to get better at it, and I think boxing, you learn something new every single time you train. I tell you all the time, Coach, like I watch your videos, I know most of that stuff, but it's amazing that you need to be reminded of it because you fall into bad habits. And with boxing, I learn something new every fight, every time I watch someone shadowbox, spar, whatever have you. It's called the sweet science for a reason. It's very complicated.
It is so complicated.
It is. You coach it. You watch people, that take it easy and then people that take it hard, and you'll see a big difference.
And the reason why, I post the videos that I do is because I think, about 10 years ago when I first started boxing up until now, there was a huge gap where I just completely just let go of all the fundamentals and I was just taking it easy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not improving whatsoever. Literally, I think almost about 50% of things that I talk about are things that I learned within the first month of boxing.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
Yep. Same. I mean, I find myself falling into ruts where my timing's off. I'm not hitting well.
Mm-hmm.
And I now have a gym at my house. And,
I see that. That's an amazing gym.
Yeah, and it's fun. You'll come up and work out with me here, but for me, I love the challenge of figuring something out. I can remember when I started with Jose, I forgot how to jump rope. I was like, I don't even know how to jump rope. Now, 8 years later after starting with him, I now really understand jump rope. And I'm not amazing at it, but I'm certainly really good at it,
Mm-hmm.
And back then I remember I was just like hopping 10 feet off here, jumping and trying to get the rope underneath me. And, and now I do, and by the way, you got me into shadowboxing again, because I stopped doing that for years. And now I'm doing that on my own.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Again, I love learning, and I think it's incredibly important for people to have hobbies. Like, hobbies to me make the world go round. Passion, because listen, I have a really challenging work day, and I work really hard, and I'm a partner at a big firm.
I do want to say one thing though.
Yeah.
Like I really couldn't tell that you were in the entertainment business or you're having this crazy work day, because you come in, you're nice to everybody. It's really rare to see you have a bad day. So
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of my battle with mental illness has been so challenging, and I just want I want to spread love as much as I can. And it's something that I just thought of. I met my now wife Cole a little over a year ago, and she got me out of this rut I was in. I'd done a lot of work on my own, but she was so understanding and open-minded and easy to deal with, and it made me want to be a better human. And by chance, she starts talking to me about her brother, and he's, of course, a boxing trainer. And
oh yes, I remember you told me about
yeah,
that.
he works at Boxing Union and
Yes.
and does a lot for them, and he's one of their head trainers, and he's a beast. And ironically, the first time I ever saw him was on a video at Fortune Gym. He was hitting the bag, and I was like, "Who's this animal?" And a year later, I find out it's my now wife's brother, and he's super positive, and he is a great role model for a lot of people that want to do this, because he's there's a new generation of boxing, and it's classes, and it's motivational, and it's for health, of course, but I think it's really for like spirit and community, and a little different than the type of stuff we do in our gym. But all the exposure has been great, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think as the boxing industry as a whole is growing, including from professional all the way down to the fitness to the group classes, I think there was kind of like this rift between like professional versus fitness versus amateur. Like, oh, that's not real boxing. That's great boxing.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I noticed in your journey, you talked about not being a fighter, and
I've never been a fighter.
Yeah, and I don't think it matters. I mean, I've learned more from a couple sessions with you, or maybe even one session with you, that I know from a lot of pro fighters that are kind of assholes, and they're aggressive and macho and manly, and I know in a street fight that I'd knock that dude out. But I'd rather be with someone like you, who's actually appreciative of the skill set you have, and you don't need to. I don't think you need to like master a trade professionally in order to teach it. I don't think that's how it works. I think you look at Jose Navarro's never been in a street fight in his life, and he's not a tough guy, and he's the best coach that I've ever encountered.
I absolutely agree. I don't know if I told you, Jose was also my coach as well. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I remember. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's this huge rift, and that was something that that I kind of struggle with internally. I still kind of do, but at the end of the day, like knowledge is knowledge. There's so many trainers out there that have never fought and that are doing amazing jobs.
Yep.
And my whole thing is I just want to continue to learn, and I just want to continue to share. So, and we'll see where that goes.
But I could give you the analogy from my
yes.
professional career. I was an actor when I was in my 20s.
You know what? It's so crazy because on your story, like I think about 2 weeks ago, I saw somebody or you put up a clip of you were in a movie.
I was in Sex and the City, and then my scene was with Vince
Oh,
Vaughn and Sarah
so
Jessica Parker.
crazy! Yes,
and I was in 160 pounds, ripped, in great shape, and young, and those are the days. But I was not a very good actor, right?
Okay.
I was a lazy kid who thought, that this was going to be a cakewalk, and I'll just take some classes. And by the way, I worked somewhat hard at learning how to act. But I consider myself a failed actor, and that's okay.
Okay.
But you look at where I'm at now, and I manage actors, and I feel like I can speak their language, except I don't have the experience. I don't have the body of work, right? But I feel like I know their language, and I feel like I'm a damn good manager. So I think it's all relatable, and I think it travels and it's fluid. I think you have to understand the art. And in your case, you not fighting means nothing to me. I feel like I can learn a little bit from anyone, but especially someone who puts as much time as you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's crazy because that even you having you were trying to be an actor that didn't work out, but yet now you're a phenomenal manager. It's kind of like like P. Diddy wasn't never the greatest rapper or dancer, right?
Yeah,
but yet he built an empire because he had
he has a unique skill set.
Yes, a unique
he has a skill set that travels and transcends, and to me that's more important than being like super experienced at one thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I guess so. We have a very similar story, just in different arenas.
Yeah.
Quickly, kind of going back to the depression and the boxing. I just feel like that's something that I have quite a few clients that have struggled with depression, and myself as well too. And boxing has helped me tremendously throughout that. And I think people are not as open to talking about it, but I've heard these stories quite a few times from just different people in general. So what is it that's something that you do daily? So how do you structure boxing and your life together on a daily to make sure that you kind of stay in this happy zone?
It's I think it's the right time to talk about this because being home so much has been harder for me to find the time to box, actually, even though I have a gym here.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself just getting bogged down with work, obviously, but also bogged down with the world and news and my new marriage. And sometimes it's challenging to find actual time to actually go in the back and hit the bag and have a good time. I prefer a much more structured experience, meaning I like getting up at 7, getting to the gym at 7:30, train with my trainer, get out of there, go to work, and have the endorphins going and all that stuff. That's how I prefer it. I've always thrived under disciplinarian coaches and regiment. The tougher the coach, the better I played.
Okay.
And
so you spawn to toughness.
I do because my father was a disciplinarian, so and I love him dearly. And he was the bad cop to my mom's good cop. And I love them both. My mom died 20 years ago, but my dad has always been kind of the one we were a little bit afraid of. And he I don't know, I wanted regiment, and I defied that for my teens. I was not a great kid at times, and I was I got arrested a couple times, and I remember the disappointment I had with my father and my family, and I'm ashamed of it now, but it's part of my story. And I think for me, waking up every morning and getting that out of the way, it changes my mood, my life, my speech, everything. So this time has been challenging for me to actually, do I go at 7 a.m. and wake the neighbors up and hit the bags? Um,
Right, right.
or do I wait till 5:30 when it's much more hustle and bustle in the neighborhood and the noises are going to bother people? But then sometimes I've already called it a day with work and I'm tired and I don't like this. This is not, as much as I love my wife and dogs. I'd rather be going to work and going to a gym every day.
You need that, like, let me
Yes.
get ready,
I
get
miss
out
the
the house, go
camaraderie.
to
I
the
miss
gym.
saying
Yep.
hi to you. I miss saying hi to 100 people.
Yes.
And talking to them and catching up with them. And, I miss that. That's why I've had, I broke the rules a little bit and had a couple friends come up here and train because
Uh-huh.
they're dying. They don't have anything.
Yeah.
They want to hit a bag.
Right, right, right.
So I
Um,
say, come up here, hit the bag. We'll disinfect after and you can go home. We'll stay away from each other and the rest is history.
that's so cool. So once that boxing has come into play in the morning, you get your workout in, you go to work. Um, I feel like just kind of like, well, let's call boxing a drug,
Yes.
because I think it is. I think one thing that is very common amongst people that are really into boxing is we have very addictive personalities
Yes.
on many different levels.
Yes.
Hopefully, it'll be a good addiction
Yeah.
versus a bad
Sure.
addiction. And just like any drug, it wears off very quickly. I don't think it's going to go the entire day. So you get your workout and you go to work. You feel good. Everything's pumped up. Um, when that starts to kind of die out, like, is there something that you do during the midday up until night to kind of keep that going?
Um, I will say that for me, a couple of things that have helped me fill the void, I would say, is acupuncture and meditation. Um,
Oh,
those things, I don't do acupuncture that much. I try to do
mm-hmm.
it twice a week. I try to meditate as much as I can. My job is incredibly busy. So
Okay. I couldn't even
yeah,
imagine.
it starts. I wake up, 7:30, and I already have a full inbox from the UK and
Mm,
other parts of the world, and then my day, my official day starts at 9, and it goes till 8 almost every day, and then
mm,
sometimes I have a dinner or drinks or, so I don't find that many voids, but I do concentrate on self care, so that is what fills my void because I don't box. I box 5 days a week. I
mm,
try and I box on weekends mostly, but
mm.
so I pick 2 days during the week where I don't because I just think the joints need that relief.
Of
Um,
course.
but I also read quite a bit for work, so that takes up a lot of my time.
Okay. And when it comes to meditation, I know in Hollywood, like TM, transcendental meditation is
Yeah,
kind of a
I
hot
tried
thing.
that and
Mhm.
I respect it and I think it's really great for a lot of people. I'm much more of a simpleton.
Okay,
I use apps like Headspace and Calm, and I
cool.
do hear affirmations and stuff like that. And I just want to hear something calm and soothing for 10
Likewise,
minutes.
same here,
You know?
same here, same here. I know you're busy, Chris, so I don't want to hold you up too much
No,
longer.
I got as much time. I have until noon, so let's go.
Okay, cool. Um, Now this is more like a personal thing, but what's number one? Those bags that you
Yeah.
have in your backyard. The first time I saw that was, I think, Andre Ward was hitting it in his gym.
Yep.
Number one, what are they called, and what's so crazy about those bags?
Well, I the the more successful you become, the better quality things you want for.
Of course.
I learned on a really shitty, hard Everlast bag when I was a kid. We had that in our basement for my
Yeah.
whole childhood. Um, and then you go to, when I went to gyms later in life, some good, some bad. Our
Yep.
gym has pretty great equipment, but then I
Yes.
started going down, rabbit holes of boxing gloves and boxing
Oh yeah.
bags, and I've talked
Exactly.
about the gloves that I have, which they're Donardos. They're
Yes.
handmade by a
The
guy in
the
Italy.
the the Bentley of
Yeah,
boxing
and
gloves.
I'm fortunate in that I make enough money to afford that kind of stuff. But I could box tomorrow with a shitty pair of Everlast, of course. But
Of course.
I'm ingrained in the culture, and I love experts in the field. And when I see this guy in Italy hand making these gloves, I get excited. And I have a couple pairs now, and I have to tell you they're the best gloves I've ever used. And then the bags that I have in the backyard are not cheap, and they're not for everyone, but they're called Grodex. And I stumbled upon them online. And to me, I'm most excited about them because they don't look like boxing bags. Like they look like almost like they're part of the design of the house.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was trying to figure out the shape of the bags, and it kind of looks like a whiskey barrel.
It does a bit. I don't know what they call it exactly. They probably have like 7 different models or so. I just bought my second one.
I saw that
I drop to concentrate on body shots, but the leather's beautiful. It's incredibly durable. It looks great. The people there are fucking incredibly professional and sweet, and I love them. I mean, I ordered my second bag recently because I was bored to death at the house and wanting to do other stuff. And they got the bag to me in a couple of days. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Are they made in the U.S.?
They're made in the U.S. They're made up in, I believe, Northern California.
Okay, so it kind of makes sense why Andre Ward was like one of the first people to be
and they put up a Devin Haney works out in his garage, and I love Devin, and he has, I think he has 4 Grodex bags.
Wow, okay.
They look beautiful in there.
Do they feel different than the regular bag?
I don't know if they feel they're a little more solid than, let's say, the bags we work out because they're broken in. I think it's a combination of they're not used as much, because they're at my house, and the leather is like very durable. It feels like you can hit this bag forever. Like it's never going to break down.
Got it. So it'd be kind of like, have you ever hit pads with Justin?
I have.
Okay, cool. Is it kind of like hitting Justin's hands? You're just hitting bricks?
Justin's hands are a different thing. Justin is a physical specimen, and the raw strength that he has is just very
it's
different.
Crazy. Actually, I've never hit pads with Justin. So funny because I've been going there for almost a decade. But I have hit pads with Macca when he was alive.
I did too.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of feeling I'm imagining, like that kind of brick feeling.
Yeah, it's funny with Macca because I saw him in the gym every day, and he was always so sweet and funny. And I never trained with him because I was with Jose. And then Grillo told me, well, if you're in the gym by yourself and you want to just do 3 rounds, Macca will hit the mitts with you for whatever, $10 a round or whatever. And I started doing that all the time, and it was so different than Jose and Justin,
everybody, even within that gym, it's almost like just legends on top of legends. But even within the legends, everybody's just got a really different style. Like Jose has like so many different angles and pivots and slip and rolls and moving back, but Macca was just really like, just hey, give me a 1, 2, 3. Keep moving.
I follow a lot of trainers online, like yourself, obviously, and I don't know if you follow him, but Mustafa.
Oh yes, of course.
I think he's out of Baltimore. I want to say Atlanta. Okay, some East Coast city, and incredible coach.
Yes.
And I remember him posting one day going, you can get by an entire career of just having a good 1-2. A lot of boxers over the years, they're 1-2. And when you watch, Ryan Garcia, he doesn't have a 1-2, but he has the hook and the straight right. Those are his punches. And we get caught up in trying to know it all, but the 1-2 is the best thing a boxer can be good at. I mean, get the jab, set up your power hand. I mean, and Macca, that's what he was like 1-2, and then he throw a hook in there. But I never threw an uppercut with Macca ever. It was more of a workout and an old blue collar coach.
Yep, and that's kind of when I first started training people, I was like, I've never been trained. I never trained in the Mayweather style in terms of on the other as me hitting the mitts, but because that was like it's still the hot thing to do, really.
Yeah, I mean, I learned. I love the Philly shell way of fighting. I love Mayweather's defense. I think it's hard to be good at because you have to be incredibly athletic.
Yes.
And Roy Jones, when you watched him fight, he had his own different version of that. But I love the Philly shell. I love the different hand spacing and the defense with your right hand over your face and having your left jab low. I really want to be good at that. That's something I'd like to study, but no one in our gym, to my knowledge, teaches it.
Yeah.
But I go online all the time and do, little seminars for myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have like periods where I'm like, oh, let me try to figure this out. But I was like, well, if I'm not going to use it and I'm not going to teach it, like, I'm not going to mess with it. That was kind of like where I was going with that.
And I think that's probably the right way to go. I think it's, I've watched, even recently, the other day, Floyd was training his kids, and I just see, man, you got to be really athletic to be good at this.
Yeah. I was like,
I don't think I would survive if I used it in a fight.
Nope.
I'd much have to go to, I'd have to go to traditional means.
Yeah. So, I kind of struggled for a long time in terms of like, okay, so do I want to try to teach this fancy thing that everybody likes, or do I want to kind of go back to the old school, the 1, 2, 3, and keep everything super clean and just real basic. But I was like, you know what, you could do both. You can do both, but I do want to base everything on, the sweet science, just a 1, 2, 3 head movement and footwork.
Well, I think I respond well to that method. I've gotten to a point where I don't want to like talk down on any form of fighting or martial arts, but I don't respond well to the Mayweather pad, that 100 punches. Right? That's number one. I'm old and my memory sucks, but I'm never going to use that in a fight. So when I'm sparring, that doesn't come in handy at all.
Right.
Learning your 6 punches and learning when to use them, even if it's sporadic, is better for me than throwing 100 punch combination, because I can't use that.
Yeah, and I think that's why some of the more old school trainers that kind of like Macca and Justin, like just that are not basic in terms of knowledge, but basic in terms of like combinations and whatnot, is that they can look at a fighter I only need like a minute to figure them out, because the way they look at a fighter is really basic. Do they have a good jab? Can they throw a right hand?
I often will, when I'm on my own and I see Justin coaching, I'll just grab him for a minute and just say, what would you do here? Like, how does that work? And he'll give me a little nugget, and then I'll practice that fucking nugget for days.
Yes.
And I much prefer that than a guy coming in and going, hey, here's the 16 punch combination I'm going to teach you, and you're going to look really awesome on Instagram. But you're never going to be able to use this in a fight. Because everything I learned in coaching and learning from experts like you and Jose and Kai and Justin and Johnny, all of them, I want to be able to use in sparring.
Yes.
Because I love to spar. I actually love getting hit. I love sparring. I love learning. Big guys, little guys. The first time I sparred at Fortune was against a guy that was like, I don't know, 240, because I was pretty big at the time. I must have been. I forget his name actually.
Was he like a stocky Italian dude?
No,
okay.
no.
I forgot what
he
that
was
guy's
like.
Name is.
He was a big husky guy, but wasn't ripped.
Okay.
But he was 240, 6'3". I'm 6 foot, and I probably weighed around the same, but I was definitely not in shape.
Okay.
And we sparred maybe 3 rounds, and I got caught a couple of times, and then I started going like, I like this. I'm gonna start sparring again, and I did, and I've been sparring ever since.
Wow, that's awesome. So because I know you said you follow a lot of trainers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't even have to.
Hey, hang on one second, bud. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Let's go.
So, who give me a list of 3 trainers that you love to watch hold pads?
Oh, that's good.
This is one of my favorite, and it's regardless of fight record or professional amateur, that doesn't even matter. Like, just somebody that you just purely enjoy watching holding pads.
I love watching Buddy McGirt.
Okay.
Buddy is one of my favorite fighters of all time, but there's something about it's the simplicity of the stuff he teaches that I love.
He moved to I could have swore he used to be in LA, but he moved to Vero.
He was in LA. I actually met him a couple of times. I mean, it's funny. I worshipped him as a kid, never met him. And then I'm in Fortune, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and there's Buddy McGirt training people.
Yeah. He used to come in time and time again.
Yeah. I mean, I love watching him. Who else? I mean, I love Canelo's coach.
Oh, why am I flipping out on his name?
I am too. I'm blanking on his name, but he's a great mitt holder.
Yep.
And watching fucking Canelo just demolish mitts is awesome.
Oh, Eddie Reynoso. There we go. Eddie. Yep.
Eddie's phenomenal. Yes. Mustafa is amazing.
Yes.
Love watching him.
And Mustafa also was not a fighter, from what I understand.
No, I don't think so.
But he would often post that I may have never been a fighter, but I studied the game like my life depends on it, and that's
and you can tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you follow his fighter Mac Truck?
I do. Yeah.
Cool. I think
tough kid.
Yeah, tough kid. I think he went to Olympic trials, didn't make it, but
yeah, very raw, and he's got a similar thing to Tyson, but without all the muscles.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. I was like, this kid, he just built really big, and he dropped a lot of weight, but he's still, he doesn't look like your normal, your Mike Tyson heavyweight type of rib. No. But man, this guy is fluid. He can move, but that also says a lot about his coach as well too. So
yeah. Oh, you know who I love too? I love both of Terrence Crawford's trainers. He uses 2 different guys.
Is there like a main and a co, or 2 separate?
I think they're just you're both coaching together, and they have different styles. And I think that's what makes Terrence so fucking good.
Got it.
And I've seen them in Fortune too.
Oh, really?
I've seen them in Fortune. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, a lot of people have been at Fortune.
Yeah, I watched Terrence spar in Fortune, and it was scary.
Oh,
it was scary. Okay. Really scary.
What is it that you love about Terrence Crawford?
I love that he fights with both hands equally well. Mm-hmm. That is so damn impressive. And I also like his he's all business. He's all business. He's not into the showboating and the hype. It's actually cost him a little bit because he's perceived as being a guy who can't sell, which I don't think is true actually, but that's not his style. His style is get in there and beat someone up.
So because you're in the show business, do you kind of look at that and be like, I feel like you should just sell yourself just a little bit more? Do you ever think that?
Yeah, I'd love to see him sell himself a little bit more, but I don't think that's who he is. I think he's a family guy. I think his kids are more important than everything, and his wife, and I love that too. But a lot of the guys I liked over the years were not, guys who sold fights. And then you have guys like Tyson who sold fights in different ways.
Right.
He sold it by intimidation and fear and kind of that caveman approach. But then he would sell it on, yelling at reporters and, and telling fighters he was going to eat them. And,
wow.
And then beating up fighters at Dapper Dan's in Harlem when he beat up Mitch Green. And it was on the cover of all the New York papers. Yeah. I mean, so I don't think there's a right and wrong. I don't know. I just want to see great fights.
Got it. Oh, you know what? That's it right there. I just want to see great fights. So if that's what you like about Terrence Crawford, are you also a fan of Andre Ward? Because I feel like he's very much kind of like in that category.
Yeah, very similar. I liked Andre. I never was like a huge fan of Andre, and then um, I've gotten to know him on digitally by following the social media and stuff, and he's incredible. So insightful, smart. He got out early, which I think is important for boxers, just for their health. It seems like all his faculties are intact, which is awesome. But those two Kovalev fights were incredibly impressive. Wow. Just because people are underestimating how great Kovalev was. He was great at that time.
Yeah, I feel like Kovalev was like really like just he was about to like really start to peak out, and then like after the Andre fights, he just kind of
took it all out of him.
Just kind of just drizzled out.
I mean, the version that fought Canelo was a shell of the old Kovalev.
And he had Buddy McGirt in his corner at the time. No.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
That's correct.
Last two questions. If you could have dinner with any professional fighter that you haven't met that is not T-Butt, who would you want to have dinner with?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the Lennox Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Here's why. I love his work post career as a fighter. I love hearing him talk about fights and commenting.
Yeah, he became a huge commentator, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is great. But I want to meet the guy who fought my two favorite heavyweights, which is Holyfield and Tyson. Wow. I want to talk to that guy who's been in, how many rounds with Holyfield. He knocked Tyson out. Obviously, it was a washed-up version of Mike, but I want to meet that guy, and I want to hear everything.
That's it.
And I think he's underrated. I think he's a legend, and I think he's one of our greats.
Absolutely. And side note, did you know he's like best friends with Russell Peters?
I did not know that.
Yeah. I think Lennox Lewis. There's a Joe Rogan podcast of Lennox Lewis and Russell Peters all in the same episode. I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to listen.
And very lastly, what is a life lesson that boxing has taught you that you carry with you on a daily?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Discipline, I think. Just discipline. Because I feel like when I am in a groove training, I'm in a groove with everything else. And I think it just goes down to discipline. Like right now I feel lost and I feel sad at times for the world and feel trapped, even though I'm incredibly lucky to have a house and not my old New York apartment that was like a studio of 350 square feet. But I don't have a routine and I don't like it. And discipline is what the thing that it starts with boxing and ends with boxing. You listen to Mike Tyson talk about tough guys don't succeed in boxing. He said smart guys do. And I don't know if that's the exact quote, but I've read it several times. And I believe it. Like, you have to be smart. You have to be dedicated, disciplined, and smart. And if you're smart, you're both of the other things, right?
Yes. And I do have one last question. It doesn't have to do with boxing, but obviously you've built such a successful career for yourself. What is one factor that you think you can share with everyone else that can help them to be successful as well too?
I would definitely say the old adage of paying it forward always brings back rewards, and to take stock in your life and understand you didn't do it on your own and you did it with the help of a lot of fucking people. And for me, it was New York. It was family. That's what means New York and family is my life. That means everything to me. So I would say understanding how lucky and fortunate we are, paying it forward, it will be rewarding and help you in anything, whether it be a career, a hobby, relationships, just honestly helping people. I mean, I would be nowhere without the help of my family, friends, and now wife. And I without one of them, I'm a different person. And, you know, without my family, I don't know where I'd be. I was a crazy kid, man. I was a weird kid. I was like, it was a little darkness there and a little wild behavior and reckless behavior. And then I think now, like, I don't want my kid to be like that.
But yet they helped you get here, and they take you for
they had
who
patience
you are.
with me.
Yes.
You know, I think they could have written me off when I was getting arrested in my teens and said, you know, that we lost that kid. But, you know, I had family members just stand by me, and friends that are, you know, my best friends in the world are friends from my childhood. 3 brothers that were my next door neighbors called the Cusick brothers. They were half Croatian, half French. They're still my best friends.
That's awesome.
We've all been through a lot of shit, a lot of, you know, violence, a little bit of drugs, you know, just neighborhood crap. And now we're all incredibly successful people, and we all stay friendly, and we all have similar hobbies. It's cool.
That's amazing. Chris, thank you for the amazing interview. I know you're
My
such
pleasure,
a busy
Coach.
person.
Nah, man, this was really fun. It was therapeutic for me too to actually hear some of it, you know, and talk about this thing we love so much.
Awesome. Well, you know, thank you for your time, Chris, and
all right, brother.
we'll definitely run it back
all
soon.
the best. We'll do it again.
All right. Bye, Chris.
Later, man.